Good evening. We'll call to order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, June 17th. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, please remain standing. We'll be led in prayer this evening by Reverend David Mark Owen, the lead chaplain at Otterbein Franklin Senior Life Community. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. God of all, in the afterglow of the Father's Day, we thank you for the fathers of our city of Greenwood. We're reminded of John Smock and Isaac Smock and Samuel Greenwood and Henry Smith. We owe to these men and their hardworking women counterparts acknowledgement and gratitude for our origins, while acknowledging the fathers of our city's infancy and childhood years. In this setting, we are in the presence of the city's current fathers and the city's current mothers. Give them the vision, the energy, and skills to nurture, to father and mother the city into maturity and adulthood. As we recommit ourselves to follow, let them recommit themselves to lead. Manifest in the people in this room a sense of trust and servanthood and common good, that the people of Greenwood may be served. I pray in gratitude for the past. I pray in celebration of the present. I pray in confidence in the future. And yes, I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call.
Armstrong.
Here.
Bates.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Dine.
Here.
Foster.
Present.
Gibson. Here. Dill.
Here.
Hopper.
Here.
And Lexi.
Here. We have a quorum. Each of you should have received copies of the minutes from our last regular meeting on June the 3rd. Do I have a motion? So motion by Mr. Lexi. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing a roll call on the minutes.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dine.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Dill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
And Lexi.
Aye. Minutes are approved on the vote of 9-0. This time we set aside an opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning business that is on the agenda. So if you'd like to address the council, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Jay Hart, 502 Forest Avenue, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. I'd like to address the ordinance 1915 with Garrett Companies and the property of Greenwood Springs. First, I wanted to thank Ms. Gibson for taking some time to go over some notes and explain in detail what the plan is for this and what we're doing. I think I have a pretty good understanding of it. I went on the record that this is a project that's already underway. The zoning was approved in 2017 with the plans that we know are there now. 120 units with 60 unit building, 2 units, I-shaped building. And, you know, there were write-ups in the Daily Journal, Indianapolis, or the Business Journal, dating back November 10th of 17. More in the journal and both journals in September of 18. So we've known what was going to be built there for 2 years. It's been the plan for, this is year 2. We're almost 2 years into this. So this is something that was already going to be built. It's being built now. There are bulldozers there now. There's water in the ground, there's drains in the ground, there's electricity in the ground. It's a project that is underway. These are tax dollars that we would already be collecting. This is not based on whether or not we give them $1.2 million. These are tax dollars we would already be collecting. And if there were an argument that they were going to leave or abandon the project, then at best we're investing in a risky, dangerous company. The company's only 4 or 5 years old. They've already invested millions of dollars in the property the way that it is. I'm no expert, but I would guess that the work that's been done on that property, there's millions of dollars of work that's been done there. So if this company is going to put that much work into something, and it's going to teeter on $1.2 million of our dollars, and they're going to abandon it if we don't give them that money, a $14.5 million project, that's a dangerous, risky company. Why are we investing in a company like that? And that's best. I think it's a gift. It's obviously not an incentive because the building is already being built. It was being built since November. It's been written up, and I mean, I could just go on and waste a lot of time talking about every article that's been written, and all of the articles have been written about how Garrett plans to hire 100 people. We've heard that for a long time, actually, from Garrett. It's in the Business Journal, and in fact, their own analysis said, you know, not to hold our breath on that. They don't find that possible. So they're not going to hire. They're already building the building. If we give them $1.2 million to upgrade what they're already doing, you know, our only gain is the difference between what they're building, what they've already started building, and what upgraded that $1.2 million is going to bring. And we have years and years and years and years before we see that product. And it's just, this is not an incentive. This is a gift to this company. It's wrong. We're conservatives in this town. We should act like it. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Brian Harris. I serve on the RDC of the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission. I know most of you on that panel right there. Some of you are my neighbors. Bob Dine lives a couple of houses down from me. I wanted to rise in support of this project. Some of the things that I look at when I voted as an RDC member for this project is I like to see our return on investment. And I'm just going to throw a number out at you. You guys have probably seen this before, but the current annual taxes generated from this parcel is $2,724. With the company's $24 million investment, we will eventually receive $5,510,000. So we may forgo some taxes initially. We may require a little bit of investment from the city's part to do this project. But when I look at anything we do on the RDC, I look at what is our return on our investment. And if we can take a project, a parcel of ground that has a current assessed value of $9,400, and we can turn it into a $24 million assessed property value, that's a pretty good return on your investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing none, moving on to reports. Corporation Counsel.
You should all have seen the item semi-monthly report and the litigation report on SharePoint. If you have questions about either of those, please contact me.
All right, all of you should receive a copy of my report from the last RDC meeting. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any other reports? Seeing none, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. First reading, ordinance 1916.
An ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 1, Section 416, chart on fees, permits, and licenses of the Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended to update fees for peddlers, solicitors, street vendors, and transient merchants, and add fees for mobile food truck vendors, sponsored by Gibson.
Do you have a motion? Motion by Ms. Gibson, a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Dine. Any discussion on the council?
I made the comment at the last meeting, this does not affect anybody that's involved in like the Freedom Fest.
Along those same lines, does it really affect anybody involved in the Greenwood Farmers Market?
No. What we are doing is the ordinance that regulates those peddlers, solicitors, street vendors, has the fee in the actual ordinance itself. It just needs to be put in the chart. That's all this does. So it doesn't really change anything that's currently happening.
All right, any further discussion on the council? Seeing none, roll call, ordinance 1916, first reading.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson. Aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Excuse me, and Lexi.
Aye.
Ordinance 1916 passes first reading 9-0. Second reading, ordinance 1915.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Greenwood, Johnson County, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of one or more series of its City of Greenwood, Indiana Economic Development Subordinate Tax Increment Revenue Bonds of 2019, Series A, Echelon Project, in a maximum aggregate principal amount not to exceed $1,240,000, and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto, the safeguarding of the interests of the owners of such revenue bonds and other matters connected therewith, and repealing ordinances inconsistent therewith, sponsored by Mr. King.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alexi. Mr. Hodson.
My name is Sam Hudson. I'm a partner with the TAP Law Firm in Indianapolis, and I also serve as Corporation Counsel. With me is Jennifer Hudson, who is the city's financial analyst from London Woody Group. We're before you today for a second reading of a project now known as the Verge Project, which involves a bond which the developer is going to be buying itself. And the net effect of this would be to give the developer a $1.2 million incentive in order for it to spend $24 million. You were given a PowerPoint presentation. If you turn to the estimated financial impacts, let's walk through them. The current assessed value of this land, and if you look at the map, the parcel has challenges. In fact, we've not had any interest in this parcel besides this developer in the 7 years that Mayor Myers has been in office. But the current assessed value of this land is only $9,400. Currently, it only generates $274 of taxes. If we're going to look at this long term, and this apartment complex will be here a lot longer than 20 years, but just a reasonably long term, 20 years, the taxes over that 20-year period, if we do nothing, is only $7,368. As I said, they're spending $24 million, but for the purpose of this analysis, we're only anticipating an assessed valuation of $14,500,000, roughly 60% of the amount of money spent. The economics change if the assessor comes in and assesses it closer to the $24 million. And how that works is this is a 2% capped project, so every $1 million it gets above $14,500,000, we get $20,000. When it's completed, it will pay $290,000 in taxes. Take a moment to reflect on that. And on this project, this bond only has a 6-year length. So if after the 6 years, for those remaining 14 years, we will collect $5.5 million in taxes. I have to differ with Mr. Hart. This is very conservative. This is a smart way to use tax money. If you spend $1.2 million and that $1.2 million turns into $5.5 million of revenue. There are other reasons to do this project other than just straight math. This is a type of project we have not yet seen in Greenwood. This is very high-end rentals. This is the housing of choice for young people that have just completed college, do not yet have families. This is our opportunity for those folks to experience Greenwood without taking the risk and the commitment of buying. And hopefully, after they've experienced our community, they want to stay and would become permanent residents. This particular project also is going to have the effect of raising the bar for development on that part of town. Take a minute and look at the assessed value and the taxes paid on the properties around it. That's the last page of your presentation. The surrounding parcels, with the exception of the giant Walmart property, are not even in the same area code of the amount of taxes this is going to be paid. This will raise the value of the property around it. Some of the uses that have concerned counselors may no longer be economically feasible as values rise around that area. And as Mr. Lexi correctly pointed out at the last meeting, there's probably not a higher use for this particular parcel of ground. This is a very, very high use for a parcel of ground that isn't on a major thoroughfare, doesn't have road frontage, and is next to an interstate. This has wrongly been called a super incentive by some. A super incentive is a term of art. It describes a abatement that has an over 10-year term, normally a 20-year term if you're calling it super. This is not a tax abatement at all. It's actually a bond, but I will concede that it has the economic impact of an abatement. but it is only for 6. It's not even like our normal standard abatement of 10 years. Just finally, this is a very good deal for the city. It's smart deals like this that keep our taxes low. These are not the sort of things that we ought to pass on. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Sam. Any further discussion on the council?
Yeah, what, when they made the original proposal, what was the value that they were going to invest?
I'm not aware of what the original proposal was.
Well,
Councilman Armstrong.
When they came in and said they wanted to build apartments, it was not I guess not the $24 million, it was something slightly less than that.
I'm not aware if there was a dollar amount even associated with that zoning proposal, Counselor.
Okay.
I have a couple of statements to make. Usually when, I think as counselors, at least for myself, we vote for or against something, we usually have some reasoning for it. I know in this case, in this particular ordinance, I've been perplexed by it. I jotted down a few notes here. I've heard arguments, of course, for and against it, just like I just heard a few moments ago. I've also heard from some of my own constituents. To me, of course, that weighs heavy. They were the ones who put me in this position to begin with and put the trust in me to represent them. So it seems to me that this measure, the bottom line for me, I know that I don't believe that when TIF districts were created, that this was the intention for a TIF district. I won't go into the details about that as far as my philosophy on that's concerned. It seems like, of course, the legislature has given municipalities more latitude in recent years each time there's a legislative session. Nevertheless, I believe the bottom line for me is that this measure is actually subsidizing a housing project. I may be wrong. And if so, that's okay. If I'm right on voting against this measure, I will say that so, and if I'm wrong, of course, I won't, or if I'm right, I won't say I told you so. The bottom line for me, of course, is as a measure is goes through this council, and whatever majority comes up with, I don't get bent out of shape over it. I usually don't lose any sleep over it, but then we'll do what I can to support it. And if it is successful, of course, and there's no wrinkles that come from it, I'll be happy on behalf of my constituents and for the city. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the council?
I have a question for Mr. Hodson. Now, Mr. Hodson, the money in the TIF district's used to pay back the bond money, correct?
Correct.
What happens if the values of the property is assessed above, closer to 24 million? What happens to the money in excess that's needed to pay back the bond?
If the assessment comes in
If
less.
there's extra money,
Oh, if there's extra money, the city keeps it. For instance, if it is assessed at $18 million rather than $14 million, that would be $80,000 more taxes.
That the city
We
gets.
would keep the overage. And if it comes in less, since they bought the bond, we're under no obligation to pay it. Their ability to get their bond paid is solely based on the taxes they pay.
All right, any further discussion or questions?
I would like to make a comment. What helps us as a city is broadening our commercial base and broadening the tax base, and that's what helps the residents. And I think when you look at the amount of money that would come in if this property weren't developed, or if it were developed even similar to the others in that area, and thank you for getting us the tax information. I think that's helpful to show how different and unique this project is. I am surprised that it's being built right there with the interstate on one side and Goodwill on the other side, but that puts them close to the interstate and easy to get out and about, whether they're going to the airport or whatever. But I just think that the taxes that we will enjoy from this will really help our citizens overall and help us to provide other things to our community.
All right, thank you.
I'll repeat my support for the project. We'll try to be succinct, but that get $24 million of assessed value that's literally in nobody's backyard is a win for all of the residents of Greenwood. If we went around looking for other areas to build a $24 million property, we'd have a lot of people saying, not in my backyard, not in my backyard, not in my backyard. Well, this isn't in anybody's backyard. Brings tremendous value to the city at little aggravation to our current residents and our constituents, so I support it.
All right, thank you.
And the most important thing is that we are not responsible for the bonding of that property. We had nothing to do with that.
All right, any other comments? Seeing none, then roll call. Second reading, ordinance 1915.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
and Armstrong.
Nay.
Ordinance 1915 passes second reading 7-2. New business, resolution 1910.
A resolution declaring certain areas in the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for public hearing. SWSRK Holdings, 173 East Broadway, sponsored by Hopper.
Mr. Berger?
I apologize for not having it here, I'll really.
My name is Dale Berger. I'm the controller for SCS Construction Services. I'm not sure at what point I should ask. I'm going to ask this at the beginning that we formally request the suspension of the rules for the first reading.
You also need to state your address.
I'm sorry,
State your address. for
Address.
business or personal?
Business will be fine.
156 South Park Boulevard, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143.
All right. Go ahead and do your presentation. We'll make a motion or ask for a motion later.
Okay, so as I was putting this together, I was trying to think how the best way is to get some information out to you, so I decided to do it in a format that maybe you would be asking me questions. So with that said, SCS Construction Services is a small general contractor. We've been in business for 15 years. We've completed over $100 million in new development and renovations, and we are currently a national contractor for Planet Fitness. Where is this property located? It's located at 173 East Broadway. It is approximately 28,000 square feet, which contains 16,000 square feet of office space and 12,000 square feet of warehouse space, and it sits on just a little over an acre of land. The property is located 2 streets north of Main Street, just across from the fire station at the corner of Broadway and Washington. Why did we pick Greenwood for this location? We have been in Greenwood for the last 10 years, and we would like to continue to support the local community. How is this project good for Greenwood? Well, this project is located, it's been recently vacated and is in bad need of repairs inside and out. It is located across the street from the Isom Elementary School. Improvements would enhance the neighborhood and give parents a better feeling to put their children in school there. There will be security cameras installed outside the building to help deter crime and assist law officers as needed. SCS has already lined up one additional tenant to occupy the space on the first floor, and there are plans to renovate the second floor in future years, which has an additional 8,000 square feet there. At this time, I'd like you to look at the handouts that I gave you. Just kind of will give you a little bit of the visual. And please, if you have questions as we go through this. So this first picture is a picture of the south side of the building. Obviously, the cleaning up of the property and painting the entire property will be there. On the next picture is a picture of the east side of the building. As you can notice, there are several places where there's damage to the actual concrete and the walls. If you look closely up on the overhead door to the left, you can see a big chunk that's been taken out of that. So all the masonry would be repaired throughout there. The next picture shows also the east side of the building, but from Broadway. In this area here, we will fill in the dock there and make additional, repay that area there to create additional parking. And then up on the corner of the building, we will be cutting holes in the walls there to put additional windows in. The next picture is on the north side of the building. As you can see, currently trees are overgrown. Those trees will be cut out and appropriate landscaping will be done to make it a little more inviting to the property, as well as we will be cutting in windows to mirror the top of the building as well, so make it a little more appealing from the outside. The next picture, just coming over a little bit, just to show it around the picture, around the building. This building back here is currently, we're not really going to be using it, make it for future use. And then the last picture here is just a picture of the west side of the building, up over the top of it. Our building is at the very top there, overlooking this auto repair shop. We just wanted to give you a 360 view of the property as it currently sits. The next page is just an aerial view of the property, showing where the building is located. And then this is the layout of the inside of the first floor. That all this will be demolition, completely taken back to the studs, and starting from scratch on the build out. I'm sorry, I apologize. That's just a layout of what the new is going to look like with the warehouse space in the back. That's just for the picture of the inside of the building, what it's going to look like. This next one here actually has the current condition and will all be demoed out. And then the last page just shows the actual new development within inside the building on the first floor with offices, cubicles, restrooms, break areas, and so forth.
Right, before we go any further, Mr. Burtner and I are longtime personal friends, so I will be recusing myself. And I believe Mr. Bates is in the same position I'm in, so he and I both will recuse ourselves from the vote tonight. So, he's requested a suspension of the rules. Do I have a motion for suspension? Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by Ms. Gibson. Any discussion on suspension? Roll call on suspension.
Campbell,
Abstain.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Reed.
Abstain.
Rules are suspended through first reading and vote is 7-0 with 2 abstentions. Motion for first reading?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Hopper, second by
Second.
Mr. Dine. Any discussion? Any questions for Mr. Burton? Yes.
The parking lot on the south, is that gonna be occupied by vehicles that belong to you, or heavy equipment, or is it gonna be converted into office space?
It's going to be just personal vehicles.
Okay, no heavy equipment, no construction equipment
No,
on
there'll
there?
be no construction equipment whatsoever on the property.
And the docks, are those doors going to remain, and you said you'd fill in that one, because that's usually
The plan
docks swimming there.
is to take those dock doors out and build them in with brick.
Okay,
So that it will look like a normal brick wall there.
So
Just
you're
have
not-
the one overhead door.
you also have landscaping plans for the outside of the building and
Yes,
things, okay.
yes, mainly around the front where those trees are now. But, because the rest of it's all concrete and asphalt.
Okay.
Right, any further questions?
Is the building gonna be, are you gonna repaint it, or what exactly?
Yes, it'll be, we haven't picked out color yet, but the entire building will be repainted, yes.
And then the photo where it looks like a mechanic shop or something, are you buying, did you purchase that as well?
No, we did not. It was just more showing you that where our building sits on the west side of the property. But no, that is not our property.
Any further questions or discussion on the council? Thank you, Mr. Bertner. All right, roll call, resolution 1910, first reading.
Johnson.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Bates.
Abstain.
Abstain. Resolution 1910 passes first reading 7-0 with 2 abstentions. Resolution 1911.
A resolution declaring a certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Becknell Industrial, South Tech Business Park, Building 4 and 5, sponsored by Hopper.
Mr. Sherman?
Sherman, Hopkins CPA, 69 Crickland Drive. You have in your packet 2 buildings, Building 4 and Building 5, that we built by Becknell. Becknell is a owner of buildings in our community. As you might remember, we had just approved Pointer Sheet Metal not too long ago, as well as they have a building that's has 2 tenants, one polytainer, one MSK, so that's the type of tenants that Becknell Industrial brings to the table. One of the buildings is about 158, a little bit less than 158,000 square feet, and the other is 170,500 square feet. They're both speculative buildings, so we have no tenants for those buildings yet. So this was a piece of ground that last council meeting, you changed the zoning, that we had to have the zoning changed as part of the due diligence. It was changed to accommodate these buildings. So this is the second part of the due diligence to have a approved.
All right, any questions for Mr. Sherman? Thank you very much. Miscellaneous business, council. Anybody?
First question is, with all the rain we've been getting, just wondered if there were any flooding issues in the city. I haven't seen any, but.
As of yet, no, we haven't had any flooding.
Okay.
Anything else from the council?
I've seen where there's a lot of interest in urban chickens lately. And so
I heard the other day where the urban chickens were susceptible to spreading salmonella.
Okay.
I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what I read.
That's if you don't cook them.
Yeah.
Gotta cook them all the way through.
Yeah, to cook them all the way through. Anyway, I just saw that the other day because I know I've seen similar interest. So.
Yeah.
If we were gonna do something like that, would we try to include that in our rehaul of our
Zoning code,
zoning
unless you want
code?
to do something before that process is completed.
Okay.
I think the people who grew up on farms and who were familiar with chickens and who originally outlawed chickens probably knew more about chickens than we do. So being a good conservative, I'm going to defer to their wisdom.
Appreciate that. All right, anything else from the council? Seeing none, this is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning business that is not on the agenda. So if you would like to do so, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, moving on, other miscellaneous business corporation council.
We do have about 11 CF1s for action for compliance on some tax abatements, which you should all have received on the SharePoint.
The first one is County Line Partners, and it had, before we get there, There was, I've been informed today that there's some issues with the county assessor and different things. And I think to make sure all that is settled, it'd be a good idea if we postpone this to our next council meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Bates to postpone the approval of CF1 for County Line Partners until our next meeting. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion? We did. Roll call. Yeah. Roll call then on suspension,
On continuation.
on continuation until our next meeting. Let me get that right. So postpone it until our next meeting.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
and Dunning.
All right. Number 2. I have a motion by Mr. Hopper to find him in compliance, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 3, USA Automation Instrumentation, Resolution 1831, motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 4, Flowtech AG, Resolution 831, finding compliance, Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Number 5, Flowtech AG, Resolution 0831, motion by Mr. Hopper to find in compliance, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 6, Wetzer USA, Resolution 0831, Mr. Hopper motions to find him in compliance. Mr. Bates seconds that motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 7, Wetzer USA Real Property, Resolution 1831. Motion by Mr. Hopper to find him in compliance, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 8, Inc., Personal Property, Resolution 0831. Motion Mr. Hopper to find him in compliance, second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Number 9, Inc., Real Property, Resolution 0831. Mr. Hopper makes a motion, Mr. Bates seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Inc. Consolidated Personal Property, Resolution 0831. Mr. Hopper makes a motion, Mr. Bates seconds that. All in favor? I'm sorry, we have a question.
I was just gonna say that this one seems to be a consolidation of all the rest of them. And so, like the personal property commitment shows that they were going to invest $28 million and they invested 27.9, so that's very close. The current retained is 274 employees. They are current of 274 and retained, and new of 131. So it's very much a good deal for all of them together.
All right, good. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? And then the last one, number 11, Inc. Consolidated Real Property, Resolution 1831. Mr. Hopper makes a motion, Mr. Bates seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Anything from the Controller's Office?
Nothing tonight.
Anything from the Mayor?
No, sir.
We are adjourned.